This video may have begun in the Inferno, but like so many great things in life has turned into Pirates of the Cosmere at World's End.
The psalm has been sung.
Hey you geeks! Last week I did a general overview of the Unmade and some of the real-world mythologies I saw as possibly influencing Brandon Sanderson. If you saw that video, sorry about the sound. Like, you can't undo a saved change in Adobe Audition. It is so stupid and infuriating. So, sorry about that. The reason why I like breaking the fourth wall and looking beyond the page to real-world inspiration is because I think they provide an excellent point of reference for theorizing about the future. That which Brandon Sanderson can hide deep within his prose may suddenly be drawn to the surface of one of his points of inspiration. After all, Sanderson is a storyteller, and as Wit says, you use the same dirty tricks for storytelling as you do for fighting in an alley. Get someone looking in the wrong direction so you can clock them across the face. Always hit them where they aren't prepared.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain!
So, from our peek behind the curtain last week, let's draw some conclusions as to what Unmade may thematically make the most sense to appear in Wind and Truth, and what the heck they might be doing. Spoiler warning for all released content of the Cosmere at this point, since I'm drawing from not only the published books, but the preview chapters of Wind and Truth and even Secret Project 5. Though that's mostly just for Dago Narthis. All 9? There is a not zero chance that all 9 Unmade will in fact make an appearance in Wind and Truth.
The 9 have left Minas Morgul.
After all, this is the book with the Duel of the Champions. And the Unmade have been linked with the identity of Odium's champion since the concept was first brought up in Oathbringer. A golden light, brilliant yet terrible. Standing before it, a dark figure in black shard plate. The figure had 9 shadows, each spreading out in a different direction, and its eyes glowed a brilliant red. 9 shadows, the Stormfather said. The Unmade, his minions, ancient spread. Yet, if that were the case, I would have thought that Unmade would have taken up more page time in Rhythm of War. Or, it's really surprising how little page time they get in this book after they got so much exploration in Oathbringer. Not to mention the whole thing about Ner'ghual being trapped in the gemstone and covered in aluminum, and Brandon's word that we shouldn't have to worry about him. The whole thing with where the thrill ended up. Do we just lack information, or did Yasna allow something that powerful to be simply tossed away and hope no one finds it? Betas have some question about this too, and my team keeps pushing me to put more info about it, but I haven't found the right place. It's more secure than you'd think. Since Naz's notes in Shallan's sketchbook indicate that it is not impossible to recover something lost from the bottom of the sea.
You mean this?
The heart of Atlantis.
While it's possible for all 9 to appear, I don't think it's likely, since Sanderson would have to spend even more page time doing more exposition on the 5 or so that we barely know anything about. Rather, I think he's going to choose 2 or 3 or 4 to be the hook, line, and sinker wrapped up in the bait that Ishar or Odium is using to get them to fall spectacularly. And leave a comment down below. What Unmade do you think will appear in Wind and Truth? Dago Narthis. Until last week, I really hadn't given Dago Narthis the Blackfisher much thought, but he was the first and only one to hit the ultimate trifecta of Inferno, Paradise Lost, and Lovecraft. So I feel like I know, or at least can assume, a lot about him, above and beyond the quick mention he gets in Hessi's Mythica. Who is the Ninth Unmade? Is it truly Daigo Narthis? If so, could their actions have actually caused the complete destruction of Aemia? Aemia, as we learned in Dawn Shard, has been harboring the Dawn Shard of Change. Probably the very Dawn Shard Ishar used to destroy Ashen back in the day. The Larkins, after all, are called the Guardians of the Ancient Sin, and they guard the Dawn Shard. The fall of Aemia is told to us by Nickley, the Sleepless Aemia, who doesn't mention Daigo Narthis, but he does mention Raiders from the Sea. Aemia shouldn't have existed, Brightness, Nickley said. It should always have been like it is now, barren. But those old Aemians, they knew ways to make it lush, alive. There are stories of fantastical devices that transformed Aemia from wasteland to paradise. Well, the people who attacked Aemia quickly realized that destroying these devices would catastrophically undermine the place. Thus, the Scouring of Aemia contains 4 key ingredients: a lush paradise that protects an ancient weapon once held by Ishar, attacked from the sea by raiders who are probably acting under the influence of the Unmade.
I don't think much of our profession, but contrasted with respectability, it is comparatively honest.
These 4 elements we see are also evident in Shinovar's recent history, as the Raiders from the Sea began when Zeth was just a small child. As Zeth's flashbacks indicate, the men of the ocean sought to kill them and steal their sheep. If you lived your life out in the lands where everyone walked on stones, your morals withered and you sought only to take. It must make them angry to see such a perfect place, full of people with time. The terrible men from the oceans who couldn't have that time themselves, so, like any petulant child, they simply destroyed it in those they saw. Fast forwarding up to the time of Rhythm of War, is it any wonder that the diagram have concluded that there are unmade influences in Shinovar, which was confirmed by the Spren? The diagram indicated it was likely one or more of the Unmade had set up in Shinovar. Fused to the east, the Peak Spren captain said, pointing, strange things in Shinovar, honor Spren acting uppity, nobody wants to travel. So I think Daigo Narthis is at it again. Beyond Hessi's Mythica and his epitaph, The Black Fisher, Daigo Narthis's real-world inspiration seems also to be very fishy and even serpentine. And can you really have an epoch-ending catastrophe without a giant serpent arising from the sea of sorts? I don't actually think there will be a literal sea serpent in Roshar, because I think Sanderson is using that specific idea in Secret Project 5. He defeated the Dakwara then, and was the first to explore Pachi. Dusk, if that were true, he'd have died quickly. You really believe there's a serpent whose tail stretches the entire ocean? Notably, this exchange about the Dakwara, giant sea serpent, is not in the excerpt that Brandon Sanderson read for us at the Rhythm of War release party all those ages ago. I surmise that when playing with this idea of sea serpent inspiration for Daigo Narthis, he decided to take it a different direction and make it literal in Isles of the Emberdark. Perhaps on Roshar, Daigo Narthis is working with Ishar to help him recover his lost weapons of old, though unlike Aemia, where he failed, in Shinovar, Ishar succeeded. The Shin had accepted the Unmade, tried to make gods of them. I saved them, and your father did give me this blade. He thanked me for letting him die. So says the mad Ishar while wielding his own honor blade, so pardon me if I don't take him exactly at his word that he saved the Shin from the Unmade. Rather, I think that either Ishar or someone is using Ishar's wisdom, as it were, as bait for Dalinar to bite onto without seeing the hook of the Unmade beneath.
Could this be a trap?
I always think everything could be a trap, which is why I'm still alive.
Which seems to me could be Dago Narthis, while connecting to other grander schemes through the likes of Sajanat. With Odium under new management, I don't think Sajanat is going to be super helpful to Team Honor in this next book, if she ever was intentionally helpful to begin with. Rather, her actions seemed more spiteful towards the person of Reyes, while also being odious in her own way, as she and the Power seem to be aligned on this. She felt a surging to the power that moved within Reyes. The mind did not like being questioned, but the Power, it liked questions, it liked arguments, it was passion. Now that Odium is in the hands of a person who can truly harness the Shard's intent, and the person chosen by Sajanat herself to attack Reyes and take on this power, it seems like she is going to be in prime position to serve Odium, even if it's for her own ends. Her modus operandi seems to have been to inhabit a certain place for a while, corrupt its spread, sow chaos and confusion, while stringing together a web of her own schemes to establish a remarkable fraud against her mark. For the last 2 books, that mark has been Reyes. I will arrange for you to be given gemstones with 2 of my children inside, she said to Taravangian. Odium searches for them, he watches me, certain I will make a mistake and reveal my true intentions. We are connected, so my children appearing will draw his attention. Sajanat is the type who lies low and plots and organizes. She is the web, the line that pulls all schemes together. So, while Dalinar is getting hooked by Ishar and the Unmade over in Shinovar, it is very easy for Sajanat to move in and occupy the war camps and corrupt them like she did Kholinar, preparing them for Odium's eventual evasion. I do hope that Sabariel is slightly more honorable than Aesudan. Though I see Sajanat as being completely dishonorable, I still think that R'lain and Renarin have hope to use their powers honorably. With the redemption of even the fused Leshwi last book, Sanderson seems to say that one can still hold a bit of the wrath of God in their own soul and still be good people. Though just because Renarin wants to be an honorable knight doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be good at it without practice, and he may fall along the way. After all, his actions at the end of Rhythm of War are quite, disturbing? Taravangian stooped as he found a note, written by Renarin Kholin, sealed by his signet. 2 words. I'm sorry. 2 gemstones, glowing brightly, were included with the note. We don't know what Renarin is apologizing for, nor do we know what Sajanat told him to convince him to drop off these 2 spren. Like, how would that conversation go? Hello, these are 2 spren children of mine that I'm sacrificing up as bait to draw Odium to Taravangian, so that Taravangian can kill Reyes and take up the power and unleash new horrors upon the Cosmere, the likes of which no one can foresee.
I looked into your future and I saw death.
There is also life.
At the very least, Renarin will continue to create blind spots for the bearer of Odium. Taravangian saw that the words were blacked out into eternity, starting from this point on his wall, as if something had happened here, a ripple in what Odium could see. At its root, a name, Renarin Kholin. Dalinar was not supposed to ascend, Odium said, stepping up behind Taravangian. You need me, Taravangian whispered. Taravangian, as a man, could account for Renarin Colin's actions because he was still mortal. Now that he has ascended to god level, he may be distracted by all the new webs and opportunities he sees in the spiritual realm, and yet he is now blinded just as Ray's was. And he may learn the hard way how crucial Brandon Sanderson likes to make those gosh darn god blind spots in his works. Ba Ado Mishram. Last but certainly not least is Ba Ado Mishram, and while Rhythm of War makes an excellent argument for why she should be released from captivity, as her absence has caused friends whose bonds have been broken to go dead-eye, and likewise for the singers themselves to lose their minds without going to odium, so her presence seems almost noble in a way.
There's just one thing more, though. This town needs this measly one-horse institution, if only to have some place where people can come without crawling to Potter.
She is a goddess, a damsel in distress, as it were, tricked by those traitorous radiants all those years ago, led by their insane and possibly sane heralds themselves. However, we should not overlook the fact that this goddess is still considered to be an unmade and spren of odium, who, to top it all off, has now been captured for 2,000 years and probably not enjoying that at all. I'm not saying that they shouldn't unleash her, but that unleashing is going to have consequences.
Can we in fact pretend that she is anything other than a woman scorned like which fury hell hath no? We cannot.
Part of me would love to see her manifest as a giant head and just chomp down on F-Face for like all of eternity. Though I don't think Sanderson's gonna be that literal if F-Face does get his comeuppance. I find it more likely that she's gonna loosen some bonds and maybe bend some light. As we know from the ancient language of Roshar, Adoda, or Ado, means light, as Adolin means born onto light. We don't have any Dawn Chant or ancient Rosharan words for the other of Ba Ado Mishram's two names, but we do have some real-world analogies that I am going to go way too in-depth on for you here. We have a word of Brandon saying that Ba Ado Mishram doesn't come from Mesopotamian deities, but rather Lovecraft, but how that question was posed to him, and the fact that this word is not recorded but paraphrased from recollection from a book signing, I find highly suspect, especially because I see not one Mesopotamian god in this, but two, and an alcoholic beverage. The first god I note comes from Ba Ado Mishram's first syllable, that is Ba, or in a Semitic pronunciation, Bay, as in Baal, known for having epithets, like Athena's epithet as bright-eyed lady. He could be Baal Zaphan, lord of the storm. Zaphan coming from Hittite language into ancient Greek as Zephyr, meaning the west wind, which not so coincidentally, I don't think, is the very name of the monastery that Zeth grew up nearby, as his flashback indicates. An honored location near the Zephyr Monastery, just further along the mountain ridge, where one of the sacred honor blades was kept. So it's not like Brandon is avoiding these real-world parallels, rather just flipping them or inverting their gender. Baal means Lord. And the second name of Ba Ado Mishram, Ado, also in Semitic languages, means Lord, and is seen biblically in the term Adonai. In more Greek mythology, we see him as Adonis, who is a god who gets killed by a boar, but then brought back to life by the goddess of love herself, Aphrodite. In the Canaanite religion, Adonis is equivalent to Thammuz, who is not brought back to life once in an epic moment of glory, but rather every year, as his death and resurrection correlates with the order of the seasons. Notably on Roshar, the seasons seem to have been out of whack ever since the Recreants.
It's summer and winter and spring and fall, all at the same time on different parts of the island.
As the guard told Dalinar in his vision at Feverstone Keep. Storming weather, the man muttered. How long's it gonna last? Been 8 weeks already. 8 weeks? 40 days of winter at once? That was rare. 40 days of a particular weather pattern is not necessarily a good omen when you're dealing in the ancient myths of Mesopotamia. So, that's 2 Mesopotamian tie-ins I found with Ba-Ada Mishram, and it was a bit difficult for me to find the third, but I did.
And he did.
Oh, I did.
Mishram sounds to me suspiciously like Mishra, a rarely used ancient Hebrew word meaning liquor, or sometimes translated as strong drink, where we know it best from its use in Leviticus.
Do not drink wine, or strong drink, thou, nor thy sons with thee, when ye go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest ye die.
Mishra can also be translated as juice, though it is derived from the ancient Hebrew word shara, meaning to loosen, so it could be translated as loose juice. Despite Sanderson's cultural heritage, having a female character named after an alcoholic beverage is not actually a sign of innate evil. But in this case, where everything is about bonds and tightening, having a character seem to be named after loosening seems like a bad sign. Along with Sanderson's other habits of gender-flipping ancient Mesopotamian deities into Unmade, I see this as being too coincidental for this not to be named after some or several Mesopotamian deities.
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
Of course, there could be a Lovecraft story that just takes all of these discordant pieces that I found and puts them all together into a nice whole that I am just not seeing at this moment that Sanderson has seen, which would be wonderful, because then we'd both be right. Until that time, I think that releasing Ba-Ada Mishram is going to cause some sort of cataclysm, whether it being the loosening of bonds or the rebending of light or both, or maybe just putting the seasons back in order could cause massive upheaval itself. Any other cataclysmic events, I think, is going to have its own video. So please like, share, and subscribe if you would like to see that. Thanks for watching. Bye!